Steve Gage here, NASM certified personal trainer and co-owner of Engage Fitness. Today we're going to do a dumbbells do's and don'ts class. This is going to focus on form and technique and specific motions of the arm. We're doing arm focus exercises. So it's going to be the biceps, which has 2 muscle groups, by 2, and then triceps, which has 3, hence the word tri. And we're going to target the forearms as well. You can't forget about those because they are part of the arm. So with this, as we're doing these exercises, usually when we're focusing on these movements, we're isolating those muscle groups individually, Specifically, as if, for example, with the bicep curl, we're just trying to hit just the bicep muscle, which as opposed to doing other movements such as either a pull down for the back, you get a little bicep activation as well. With this, we're targeting just one specific muscle group, so we want to focus on what the joints are doing that are involved in this motion. So with the bicep curl, pick up our dumbbell. So we want to make sure at any dumbbell movement that we're doing, we're really focusing on that bicep work. We're making sure that the elbow joint stays stationary. You'll see sometimes people, they do the swinging motion where the elbow comes up. We want to really target the bicep. We want to keep that elbow locked in. So wherever your elbow is by your side, you want to keep that sucker almost as if it's glued to your side and it does not move. The only part of the arm that should be moving is the forearm. We want to try to get that dumbbell to the top of your shoulder, and to line up that shoulder for that move. We want to make sure the shoulder blades are squeezed together and down. They're not hiking up to the ears, because if we get those shoulder blades together and down, almost as if we're trying to put them in our back pocket, that sets the shoulder up in a natural neutral position. Because if we're rounding forward a little bit, that shoulder is kind of grinding against that shoulder girdle that's hanging over. So if the shoulder blades are together and down, shoulders are relaxed, we're relaxed. Again, we start that bicep curl by just bringing that dumbbell to the top of the shoulder. Simple motion, all that's coming from the elbow joint. We're not moving the elbow as we come up. If you have to swing your elbow, usually it's because the weight's a little too heavy, and we really want to focus on just the bicep. So just moving at that elbow joint, not swinging. Good control. Up and down, full range of motion too. We want to get that hand all the way up to the top. Don't stop about 3/4 of the way, because you're only getting 3/4 of the work on that bicep. You want to get full stretch, let your arm extend all the way at the bottom, and then all the way to the top, really feeling that contraction at the top. And as we get to the top, we want to add a slight rotation of the wrist. So we're at the top, bringing it up to the shoulder, and then we're rotating slightly, just slightly. We're trying to get the pinky to externally rotate outward. And you'll really get the top, the peak of that bicep, and by rotating that wrist and then coming back down. And we always exhale when the work is being done on the push, the pull, the curl. Anytime we're doing that work, exhale out, rotate slightly, and then back down. Again, making sure we're not swinging, using the shoulder and moving the elbow. We're just moving the forearm. That's the only part that's moving in that bicep curl. And same thing as if we were doing a hammer curl variation. We're holding the dumbbell just like a hammer with our palms facing in. Shoulder blades are back and down in that natural neutral position, and we're just moving the joint, the arm from the elbow, just to the top, getting that dumbbell to the top and full range of motion, lowering it back down, and not swinging or moving the elbow. Elbows are glued to the side, really focusing on targeting that one specific muscle group. And again, we get that slight rotation outward, and that's again going to work the peak of that bicep. And also with these motions, we want to make sure we're in control of the weight. We're not just using momentum to fling them up and just let them relax down, because then that pulls things, and then at least the bicep tears, shoulder tears, all those things we want to actively avoid. So again, we want to control the weights, not let the weights control us. It sounds cheesy, but it saves a lot of injuries down the road. Good control here. Exhale on the push, on the curl, and then the arm goes back down. And same thing if we're going to take this bicep curl to the concentration curl position, where we're using our leg as that base. That elbow is glued to that side of the leg, and we're not swinging and rotating. Again, elbow stays where it is, shoulders are in that stable position, and we're just raising that hand to the shoulder. Control, we're just moving the forearm, we're not, again, swinging, using momentum to get that weight up, because then we start adding lower back into that, and we definitely don't want to do any of that. Just moving that forearm with that slight rotation out, and then back down. Exhaling on the curl. And another tip, if you're not feeling the focus that you really want on the bicep, I suggest a small tweak in your grip. So if, for example, if your hands are facing forward, instead of using your thumb, I would definitely suggest using lighter weight while starting with this, because you might have to build up your grip strength. You try not using your thumb, and it activates a lot more bicep muscle in doing the bicep curl. You'll feel the differences. You do a couple curls with the thumb, all the way up, all the way down, and then just try it without the thumb, using your fingers, and feel a little more activation with not using the thumb. Again, making sure elbows are by the side, we're not doing any swinging business. Elbows, shoulder blades are back and down and relaxed. And also just making sure as we get tired while doing these, the shoulders have a tendency to kind of hike up towards the ears. We want to keep those down, because then it keeps that shoulder joint in its neutral position and allows us to be comfortable in that position. So next we're going to switch to the triceps, the muscles in the back of the arm, responsible for a lot of our pushing, arm pushing focused exercises, where the biceps are focused on a lot of pulling exercises. So with this, a lot of similar things, just our elbows and shoulders are going to be in different places. So we'll start with, example is the skull crusher on the floor. So with this, again, we want to take the shape and position of the exercise into full range of motion. So we get into a position where we can get the elbows up but stationary, making sure they're not flailing out. We want to keep those shoulders, again, together. I know it's difficult to see on the floor. And then down, keeping them in that neutral position. Arms up, just bring them to the point where we can get a full elbow bend. So if you're not able to bring it all the way back here yet, that's totally fine. We just want to make sure we get a full stretch in the bicep, because we want to get that, as we bend, we're stretching the tricep. Then as we are going to extend, we really contract the tricep. And again, same thing, it's a little more difficult because we don't have the body to lock in those elbows, but we want to make sure those elbows stay stationary. They're not swinging with the dumbbells, because then we're getting shoulder and tricep. We want to focus just on the tricep. So we're just keeping those elbows stationary, and we're just, again, moving the forearm. Forearm's the only part that's moving. Same thing, exhale to push. Slow, controlled movements. Really feeling the back of that arm light up. And similarly to the bicep curl, we're going to add just a little bit of wrist rotation. So we're going to, at the top, we're going to rotate the wrist out a little bit as we come to the top. And again, shoulders are down on the floor, and they're not swinging with the with the weights. Again, if the weights, you have to really swing them and move them around, it means you got to use a little bit lighter weight. Might be a little strike on the ego, but it will target those triceps a lot more, and you'll see the benefits of it later on. And really try to push, get those forearms are the only thing that's moving. So we're going to take this exercise in a standing position. So So with this, if your shoulder mobility is not the greatest yet, we'll take this in small steps. So again, first, getting that shoulder in that ideal position. So shoulder weighted together and down and relaxed. So next we're gonna bring the dumbbells up to the shoulders, and then we're just gonna bring the elbows. Try to bring them as high as you, close as you can to the ears. But again, if your shoulder mobility is not ready for that shape yet, just bring it to the point where you feel that tricep stretch in the back of your arm. And same thing, keeping that neutral shoulder position. We're gonna raise just the forearm. Just the forearm comes up, and making sure we're not swinging the dumbbells here. We're keeping those elbows stationary, and we're just moving the forearm. And this is a little core activation too, because you'll feel if that core is not active, your body's gonna have a tendency to want to lean back, and you want to keep that core engagement and keep that spine neutral. So we're here and just neutral spine, tuck in that tailbone. And again, we're not swinging and the shoulders. If you feel the shoulders are moving around a lot more than they should, try to lock with that mind-muscle connection there, where you're locking those shoulders down together and down, and it keeps them in that neutral position. And just again, just moving the forearms. Relax. Just want to take one more tricep shape, similar conditions. So this is going to be the bent over kickback. So again, for this we're bending at the waist and at the knees. So we're slight bending at the knees, keeping that neutral spine and flat back. And we're bending over just to the point where you start to feel either you roll forward or your body wants to arch back. We want to keep that flat neutral spine as much as we can. And that comes from just bending at the waist and not forward. So we're hinging at the waist. Elbows, bring them right to your sides so the elbows are in line with the shoulder, not way down here or way up here, because then it becomes really uncomfortable. We want the elbows in line with the shoulder and those elbows glued to the side. And with this, we're just driving the arms back. Again, just moving the forearm. We're not swinging, using momentum. Elbows by the sides. And we're just bringing the forearms back. And again, we want to get that little bit of wrist extension, because that adds towards the bottom of the motion a little bit more tricep activation. So again, we're just elbows by the sides, shoulders are together and down, relaxed, core is engaged. And if at any point you feel lower back pain in this shape, just simply raise the angle up a little more. And that takes off the pressure of the low back. Again, just moving the forearm, no swinging like we're skiing. We want to keep those elbows glued to the sides. And relax. And at any point you're not feeling the exercise, not just on arms, but any body exercise you're doing, just hold the bottom of the position. So for example, if I was not sure if I was feeling it in my triceps here, try just holding it at the top, and then you'll feel what muscle groups start to get tired and shaky. That kind of gives you that mind-muscle connection too. Kind of puts your mind, okay, that's what I'm working is the triceps. Oh, that's what I'm working, the biceps. Kind of gets that mind-muscle connection, which is crucial for keeping your body awareness. So next we're going to target the forearm. So a lot of people neglect this area because it's not one of the pretty muscle groups, so they kind of forget about it. This is crucial for keeping strong and healthy wrists, so that way as we get older, we don't have to worry as much about arthritis or carpal tunnel or all those fun things that tend to happen once in a while. So with this, we're going to work on the wrist curl. So with this, starting fairly light. So we want to make sure we can either use a bench, or if we're at home, we don't have all the fancy equipment that we would at a normal gym, we can use just our old leg. So with this, we want to make sure we allow the wrist to over extend. Again, getting that stretch on the underside of the forearm here. Grabbing the dumbbell just like you would regularly. letting the wrist stretch, getting that stretch in the forearm. And we're just gonna bring that wrist to the top, just like you're curling here. And all the motion should be coming from, again, that joint, focusing on that one joint that's moving. We don't want to be using the bicep to curl it up. If you have to use the full arm to curl it up, you're using too much weight. Focusing on just one area, so we want to move just that one joint. Try to get that wrist, that hand as close to the top of your forearm as you can. Letting it stretch, curl. And if you're unable to hold this shape at any reason, we can do this shape simply by just standing up. So we're gonna have the dumbbells either by our sides or behind us, palms facing behind us, and we're just going to do the similar motion. So with this, we wanna get the hands, the fingers extended as much as we can, really getting that good stretch. Because the more we use the fingers, the more forearm activation we're gonna get. So we let the dumbbells come as close as we can just before we drop them, and then just rolling them back up, really trying to get that wrist curl, letting them come down. Again, focusing just on that one joint. We want to make sure we're not using body weight or momentum to curl them up. We want to just use the fingers and then that forearm. And then we'll relax these. So next we're going to hit the flexion or the forward upward motion of the forearm, which is going to hit the top of your forearm here. In similar positions, we're just going to flip them as opposed to having the palms facing up. Now they're going to be facing down. So with this, again, we want to make sure we get the wrist is allowed to hang over. It's not just resting here, because we want to get that stretch at the bottom of the motion. Again, our shoulders are back and down. We're not leaning forward, because then we get that lower back pain. Tight core, back and down shoulders. And we're just going to get that hand just as high as we can, just to the point where you feel like that's your end range of motion. Letting it stretch all the way down, and same thing. Again, just moving from that one joint. We're not using the leg to bump up the dumbbell or using our arm to pull. All the motion should be coming from that hand. Almost as if you're trying to get that middle knuckle to the middle of your forearm. And you will not lead a crazy amount of weight for these, because it's a small joint. It's not really meant to be heavy load bearing. So just take it at your own pace, making sure you get full range of motion, not using momentum. And then we'll go same thing. We can do these standing as well. So with dumbbells, instead of having the palms facing backwards, we're gonna have the palms facing inwards this time. So with this, we're just doing the same thing we just did. We just don't have that little extra base. So we're just gonna bring those wrists as high as we can, back down. Bring them up as high as we can. Really feeling that tension and that muscle activation at the top of the forearm. This is one of those exercises I would definitely recommend doing, either just resting your arms. You want to not have the point where your arms are resting up here, because then you have to worry about your shoulders and biceps getting tired. We want to just focus on just that one area of the wrist. And then relax. Well, thank you for joining me, everybody. Hope this dumbbell do's and don'ts class was helpful and beneficial, and you can take these tips to your workouts either at home or at your local gym. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Be safe, be kind, and choose to be well. Take care.